The 2024 Atlantic Ocean hurricane season could be a devastating one, according to some U.S. forecasts. They're predicting the number of storms to double from June to November, with some forecasts expecting between 20 and 25 extreme weather events, and up to 10 of them will be hurricanes, with up to 6 storms being categorized as a Cat 3 or higher. The meteorologists are citing higher ocean temperatures and weather patterns for the spike. The 2023 season was above average with 20 named storms, and that was the most since 1950. And that's the soaring number of extreme climate events are forcing insurers to change how they operate to the disadvantage of property owners. Some insurance providers are raising premiums in disaster-prone areas, and one nonprofit study says there was a 10 to 12% increase in homeowners insurance costs. Now, some companies are even choosing to stop insuring places that are most exposed to climate change. For example, one insurer in California has paused issuing policies due to wildfire risks. But climate change isn't the only reason why insurance costs are rising. Rebuilding and replacement costs soared 55% between the years 2019 and 2022, leading millions of homeowners to forego insurance. Okay, let's check into more on this. For more on the insurance industry and the impact of climate change, we're joined now by Robert Hartwig. He is the director of the Center for Risk and Uncertainty Management at the Darla Moore School of Business at the fine institution at the University of South Carolina in Columbia. Thank you very much for joining us. I've spent a number of years in Columbia, so I think of it very fondly.
Thank you. Glad to be with you.
Let's talk about this, though. How is climate change influencing the insurance industry? Because I read that in some areas, Florida has yanked all its insurance for a number of areas that are hurricane prone. Is there truth to that?
Well, there's still insurance available in places like Florida. It's simply far more expensive and on more restrictive terms than it once used to be. And the same could be said for places like California, which are prone to wildfire risk. Same thing in areas of Colorado, a few other parts of the country as well. And this is not just happening in the United States, it's happening around the world. And you happen to mention about a 55% increase in the cost of repair and rebuilding homes. A lot of that has to do with inflation. We've had very substantial inflation here in the United States and in parts of Europe and other parts of the world over the past few years. So it is the combination of extreme inflation along with climate change and variability and volatility and uncertainty in terms of what's going to happen in terms of catastrophic losses that has been driving premiums up and creating availability problems in some parts of the country.
Availability problems is a kind way of saying it. It's just too expensive for some people. I didn't even know you could forego insurance, I guess, unless your house is completely paid off. So how is climate change directly affecting the availability and the affordability of insurance coverage?
Right. So climate change around the world is creating an increase in the intensity and in some cases the frequency of very strong storm events, whether it's hurricanes in one part of the world or typhoons in another part of the world or wildfires or floods. All of these are taxing the resources of insurers and reinsurers, which are the insurers of the insurance industry.
Right.
And so we're talking about ultimately a limited global pool of capital to deal with these disasters. And it's the resources of the global insurance and reinsurance industries have been really taxed to the max, if you will, between the combination of climate change and, again, along with that, the increase in costs associated with inflation. So it's going to take a while for the industry to really catch up.
Okay, let's talk about some areas in particular. California, we've had hideous wildfires out there and things that just take on their own lives, really. And we also have the horrible hurricanes that really punish the Gulf Coast and the East Coast, Florida's coast. I'm old enough to remember back when Hurricane Andrew hit and there were dramatic changes in the building codes, and that made houses quite a bit safer. They were able to withstand. But what about specific regions or types of properties that are just becoming increasingly difficult to insure because of climate change related risk? What about barrier islands? Should we be able to, should we pay to rebuild those?
Right. So, yeah, it's a good question. Barrier islands and other places prone to flooding and sea level rise. Does it make any sense for taxpayers to habitually to pay homeowners to rebuild on properties that within a few years are going to be damaged or destroyed again. No, that's very, very poor public policy. But unfortunately, there's a lot of inertia and a lot of economics that drive and favor development in these areas. And so you will find that across the political spectrum, whether we're talking about conservatives or liberals, you will find support for what amount to subsidies to subsidize businesses and homeowners to live in these areas. So although building codes have strengthened, as you mentioned, in many parts of the country, zoning ordinances that determine where businesses and homes can be located have lagged far behind. So people are living on barrier islands that on a good day are maybe 3 feet above sea level, and on a bad day are several feet below. So it's only a matter of when, not if, these properties will be damaged or destroyed.
You know, how do insurers determine which areas are most vulnerable? It sounds like a very simple question, but I'm sure that they have various equations that go into all this.
Well, insurers, you mentioned Hurricane Andrew, and that was really the genesis of very sophisticated catastrophe modeling here in the United States. And it's gotten very sophisticated in the 30 years since then. So insurers have very good data on the historical storm tracks, what's happening with sea level rise, flooding, also wildfire, and many other natural disasters. And so they know with a fair degree of precision which parts of the country are the most vulnerable. They also know how that risk can be diminished through improved building codes and zoning ordinances and so forth. But in those communities that have not seriously taken up on building codes or made improvements in terms of where they are willing to locate or allow businesses and homes to be located, those communities are going to find themselves in a very, very difficult situation with respect to the availability and affordability of insurance. And those problems are only going to intensify over time.
Okay, Robert Hartwig, can't thank you enough for your insight. Very easy to get your head around, and let's hope the forecasters are wrong on this one and the season's not nearly as punishing as they predicted. Thank you very much.
I agree. Thank you.